Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. Let's learn, guys. My name's Connor. If you're new, the original link to the video from Ollie Richards, top of the description, preemptive like. Hope everyone's doing well. The German language, its fascinating history, diverse dialects, and more. English is Germanic, right?
People.
Oh, the German language, not Germanic languages. But I think English is Germanic language with a lot of French thrown in. Are Norse languages Germanic languages, or are they just Norse? Is Norse just its separate thing? And then Finland is... Anyways, languages are fascinating. Let's learn.
And dialects, some of which the Germanic world is more spread out than most people think, and full of fascinating people and dialects, some of which you have to hear to believe.
Das war eine sehr schlechte Hex. Die hat wohl nicht im Pub essen. Aufessen, einfach. Hat sie immer eingesperrt, aber das Mädel war gescheit und hat gesagt, weißt du was? Jetzt brauchen wir dem Pub noch ein bisschen Essen geben, damit er ein bisschen dicker wird, weil er ist ja sehr mager.
Now, can you guess where this speaker came from?
I'm going to guess either south. I'm going to guess...
From?
Damit weißt du was? Jetzt brauchen wir dem Pub noch ein bisschen Essen geben, damit er ein bisschen dicker wird, weil er ist ja sehr mager.
Now, can
Austria? No. Switzerland? Bavaria area of Germany? That's my best guess.
you guess where this speaker came from? Any ideas? Well, it's called Zipser German, and if you're really lucky, you might hear a bit of it in Slovakia or Romania. But you really have to go looking for it. It's one of those obscure German dialects in danger of extinction. That's right, it is not just giant pandas.
It did sound a little... not Slavic, but it had a... It was definitely different from what I usually think of when I hear German.
Anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's start right back at the beginning. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Ollie Richards, and this channel is all about helping you learn a new language quickly using the power of story, so you can become fluent faster and live your best life. So the earliest stages of the German language was called Old High German, which existed roughly between the years 750 AD to 1050. Other West Germanic dialects...
I think that's the kind that the Amish speak. We have people in the US, have you heard? You might have heard of Amish people. They're mostly in Pennsylvania, like central western Pennsylvania, and I'm sure parts of eastern Ohio maybe, but I think they speak High German.
On the continent fell under this umbrella too, and as you know...
Sorry, I'm pausing too much.
High German, which existed roughly between the years 750 AD to 1050. Other West Germanic dialects on the continent fell under this umbrella too, and as you no doubt know from movies, this was a time of tribal kingdoms in Europe. Now check this out. The oldest surviving piece of German writing, and their very first masterpiece, it is an epic poem called The Song of Hildebrand, written in the 830s in Old High German. That's right. It is about a tragic encounter in battle between a father and his son who does not recognize him. Well, we can read it better here. These are the opening lines that you can see right here. And amazingly, this survived air raids, survived being looted in war, treated with chemicals, torn apart, defaced, and even almost given to Hitler. Yeah. The West Germanic language...
Whenever I hear stuff like that, I at first I am happy it survived. But it immediately makes me think of all the things that would have been really cool and helpful to see that did get destroyed. I kind of get the same feeling when I look at the pyramids. I've never seen them in person, but it's like if this survived, how many stuff was destroyed? How much stuff? How many stuff?
And even almost given to Hitler. Yeah. The West Germanic languages were probably mutually intelligible until around the 8th century, because then a big event changed the way that people spoke. And this was the High Germanic sound shift. Sounds very glorious, doesn't it? It didn't just happen suddenly, of course. It was a gradual change over a few centuries. At first, sounds changed between vowels, then sounds changed at the beginning of words. Altogether, 9 consonants changed, and eventually there were 2 distinct dialects. That's where we ended up: High German and Low German. The changes affected Dutch too, but English was
That's
actually
really cool because it shows you how languages kind of diverge from each other. I'm sure if they were left alone for long enough, they would eventually be just completely different languages.
German and Low German. The changes affected Dutch too, but English was actually completely unaffected by this change. Most of the changes have become part now of what we call modern standard German. So what do High German and Low German mean? Well, it's not that one was a better language or anything like that. It was just
One is in the
geographical.
highlands,
Low
one in the
German was
lowlands.
spoken in the north of Germany, which is low-lying country, actually going into the part of the Netherlands too. And High German was spoken in the south of Germany at a higher elevation. These days, Low German is considered an old form of the language that survived the move to a standard German, and it's mostly only older people who still speak it.
Ik hef u den Zimmer van achten gezien. Hij dreht den Kopf, blinkt mit Joe und streckt sich und macht noch so verschaumt und lustig, swung mit den Beinen.
Speak it.
Ik hef u den Zimmer van achten gezien. Hij dreht den Kopf, blinkt mit Joe und streckt sich und macht noch so verschaumt und lustig, swung mit den Beinen. Speel hier jongshaftig voetbalspeel.
I hope I don't make people mad by comparing it, all right? But it's true. It almost sounds like what I think English would sound like if I didn't know it. Because it almost sounds as if he's saying some, like the start of an English word, and then it changes. I can't help it. That's what I felt like.
Swung met de benen. Speel hier jongshaftig voetbalspeel. Met wat? Met een blad. Met hoepenwiesbedden.
What do you think? Some people describe Low German as a sort of middle language between Standard German and Old Dutch. But it didn't stop at the High and Low dialects, though. For a while, German people spoke increasingly differently from region to the extent that they had battles to understand each other. They really needed to have one version of German that everyone could grasp. And so writers started working out a standard written language. But it took a few hundred years, and we've only had Standard German since the 1800s. Now, Standard German is based on High German phonetics, and there are three written language. But it took a few hundred years, and we've only had Standard German since the 1800s. Now, Standard German is based on High German phonetics, and there are three standard versions of this: German, Swiss, and Austrian. But while schools have to adhere to this written standard, there is actually no pronunciation standard, which is good news, right? You can get away with your own weird accent while you are learning the language. And let me tell you, there are a lot of German varieties out there. So let's see where German is spoken. German is an official language in 4 countries in the European Union: Germany, Austria,
Angola, I think, does.
Belgium, and Luxembourg. It's also an official language in Switzerland and Liechtenstein as well. And there's a minority group in Poland too. Actually, Poland is the country with the most people learning German, nearly 2 million people. And ethnic Germans are a minority group in many other countries too. But let's check out Germany first.
Hallo, ich bin Anne und ich komme aus dem Schwabeländle. Das ist in Baden-Württemberg. Schwaben, so rund um Stuttgart drumherum, oder wie wir sagen, rund um Stuttgart. Ländle, das ist in Baden-Württemberg.
This is in Baden-Württemberg. Is that what she just said? She said, I couldn't understand what she said, but then this is in Baden-Württemberg, which is a territory, a state in Germany that is west of Bavaria.
Und Anne und ich komme aus dem Schwabeländle. Das ist in Baden-Württemberg.
Is that...
Schwaben, so rund um Stuttgart drumherum, oder wie wir sagen, rund um Stuttgart. Es gibt
I studied at Stuttgart.
viele Diskussionen, ob Schwäbisch jetzt eigene Sprache ist oder nicht, weil eigentlich ist es bloß ein Dialekt.
I learned to speak English. Is that what she just said? I feel like did she say I'm from Baden-Württemberg? I went to school, I went to college or university or studied in Stuttgart. And
Ob Schwäbisch jetzt eigene Sprache ist oder nicht, weil
and Sprache is
Eigentlich ist es bloß ein
Speak English? Oh, I feel like I'm onto something.
Dialekt. Aber ich denke, vor allem das alte Schwäbisch ist eigentlich eine Sprache für sich.
English speaking something.
Und ich möchte euch zeigen, warum ich das denke.
Now that's the Swabian dialect.
And
It's pretty cool,
something.
right? If you're a complete beginner, don't worry if it all sounds the same to you. It doesn't matter. But make no mistake, even German natives can have trouble understanding people from other parts of the country. So these are just some
Really?
of the varieties of German.
Like Cantonese and Mandarin, right? They're both. I don't think Cantonese and Mandarin speakers can understand each other. Maybe I'm sure they have some words in common.
The spectrum of regional variations in the country is really quite colourful, and I love this. The thing is, it's easy to think of dialects as a sort of small town quirk or something, but dialects are an important part of cultural diversity. In nearby countries, things can get even more confusing as well. If you go to Switzerland, for example, it might become obvious that people sound a little different. Now, have you ever heard someone speaking Swiss German? I don't mean Swiss standard
Schweizerdeutsch.
German that I mentioned earlier, but Swiss German is something else. It's a group of Alemannic dialects that sound something like this.
Hallo zusammen, oder wie wir bei uns in der Deutschschweiz sagt, grüezi miteinander. Oder wie wir bei uns in der Deutschschweiz sagt, grüezi miteinander.
No
Ich bin
idea.
Julia. In der Deutschschweiz sagt, grüezi miteinander. Ich bin Julia. Und ich möchte euch heute gerne etwas über meine Muttersprache, das Schweizerdeutsche,
She say my name's Julia.
erzählen und über meinen Dialekt oder mein Dialektgemisch, darüber, wie es dazu gekommen ist und wie ich zu meiner Muttersprache stand.
It's so nice this.
I have no clue. What?
Many Germans say that they can't understand Swiss German varieties at all. In fact, TV interviews with Swiss German guests actually need subtitles. Interestingly, even with 5 million speakers, it has no written standard and is unrecognized in Switzerland in favor of the standard German. And this means that you can't learn to write in Swiss German. I mean, okay, text messaging and so on can be done. You'd use basic German grammar rules and then just write the words the way they're said. But no spelling rules. I mean, how do you like that? That sounds quite cool, doesn't it? But
Sounds
dialects like
confusing.
Swiss German are important to try and preserve because they hold so many cultural memories.
stuff.
Things like traditional songs people grew up with and things like that. Now, the
Someone said something pretty poetic, like when a language dies, it's like burning down. It's like it's as if I keep saying like. I hate. It's as if. I mean, it's as if, and it's like. What am I? Oh yeah, it's as if you burn down like a dozen libraries of information. I thought that was interesting. ADD moment, sorry.
vernacular of Liechtenstein is quite close to this version, by the way. Liechtenstein is a tiny, beautiful country right in the heart of Europe.
I've
A
driven
land
through.
that once endured savage witch hunts, but now offers quite the idyllic lifestyle with peace and a stunning alpine view. Here's something you might not know. German is an official language in the South Tyrol part of Italy, and that's the northernmost point. It used
Makes
to belong
sense.
to Austria, but was given to Italy after World War I, despite the fact that everyone spoke German. Now, speaking of Austria, I've heard travellers say the dialect in this beautiful country can be very polite compared to Germany. And just like Germany and Switzerland, Austria has tons of regional variation.
I would imagine that, and let me know if I'm wrong, anyone with language expertise or whatnot, or anyone, that I would imagine that an area with more, it just makes sense, a more geographic boundaries, whether it's, seas or obviously oceans, but sea or a lot of mountains and valleys and rivers and deserts. I'm sure there, because it's harder to get from place to place, that I'd imagine there's more dialects and languages per piece of land, per area of a place. Whereas if something is much more flat and easy to navigate, then you'd think that it would be much more difficult for a new language to arise out of something else, because you need separation in order for you to agree on different words and sounds and stuff like that. I hope I explained what I tried to say.
The Viennese dialect, like Germany and Switzerland, Austria has tons of regional variations. The Viennese
Isolation.
dialect, for one, can even be hard for other Germans to recognize because it has a lot of influence from other languages. But outside of Europe, German is big too. The US has 1.4 million native speakers, and in one particular state, they have a
Pennsylvania.
rather unusual way of speaking.
Ik heet Vernel Ehler. Ik ben 6 mijl nördlich van Fredericksburg geboren.
That's crazy. I can't understand her, but I can understand her, if that makes sense. She has the mannerisms of American, but the words I don't understand. But I can't talk right now. Just the way she's speaking sounds American. I'd imagine she's in Ohio, Pennsylvania.
Ik ben 6
Maybe
mijl
Texas?
nördlich van Fredericksburg geboren. Zu die Zeit waren die meisten Kinder noch zu Hause geboren.
Now, if you haven't heard of Texas German,
Okay, Texas.
don't worry, not many people have. It is a remnant of a thriving German immigrant culture from the 1840s. There's a drive to protect this endangered variety, and one Texas university is even recording people speaking it, which is a fantastic initiative. Okay, so Germans settled in America, not that surprising. But have you heard of this German community?
Angola. Oh,
If you
Namibia.
love sand dunes, shipwrecks, and all things African, this country on the
Namibia looks so cool because its coastline goes right from sand, like sand dunes, sand dunes, right up to the ocean. So I've seen it in videos, at least.
southwest
Never
coast of
been.
Africa makes a very adventurous place to learn German. It is Namibia. Now, 20,000 German Namibians live here, and they are descendants of German colonists.
thought
And all
Angola
over
was
the town,
more
you'll see German
German,
schools,
which
German
is right
churches,
north of
German
it.
street names, German beer. That's Japanese, well, whatever. German is a national language here. They call their dialect Southwest German, or Namdeutsch. And as you might expect, it has
Namdeutsch.
lots of peculiarities with influence from local languages. Virtually all German Namibians are also fluent in Afrikaans and can also speak English. Now, one country that you probably already know has German
Afrikaans is
immigrants is
Dutch related,
Russia.
right?
In the 18th century, the young Empress Catherine the Great invited Germans and other Europeans to come and settle in Russia. She made a pretty compelling case. In the manifesto she signed, they were offered free land, exemption from military service, and were allowed to keep speaking German. So why not? Well, today there are 800,000 people with German roots still living in Russia. There are lots more settler stories like these in other places in the world with German communities. But the main reason we talk about it is to show you there are so many options if you want to immerse in the language you're learning. You really are never limited to just one country. So here is a big question. Why is German worth learning? Why indeed? Is it really that useful a language? Well, let's think about this. German is the 11th most spoken language in the world and the most spoken mother tongue in Europe, behind Italian, French, Spanish, and English. And that's 16% of all Europeans. And all over the world, we're talking 200 million German speakers.
The way I look at what I only know one language, American, English. It's English. I say American sometimes as a joke. Is English. But if I could pick a language just to know, I would have to think what language doesn't have a lot of people who know the language that I know, English, and how many people are there that could be useful to talk to more so than others that don't know English very often. French is up there. I feel like French, Chinese, maybe Japanese or something like that. Countries where they don't have a lot of English speakers and they also have a lot of people. And Germany is definitely up there, but I feel as if many more Germans know English, which I already know, than something like France does, Same goes with Nordic languages. If I can already communicate with a lot of people from there because they already know English, well, that lowers, I think, the value of trying to learn that language. That has nothing to do with just wanting to learn it, but I think I would take that into account,
In fact, after the US, Germany is the second most popular country to emigrate to, which is quite an amazing statistic. It's not just because it's an economic powerhouse. Germany has a high standard of living, so it offers security. No surprise then that over 15 million people are currently learning German. It's also the second most widely used scientific language. Doctors, medical researchers, engineers, these make up a lot of the students. But let's get to the fun part, German vocabulary. Now, there is a reason that I will not play Scrabble with a German, and here is that reason.
Oh my God, it showed up. I'm not going to try it again. Rechtsschutzversicherungsgesellschaften. And obviously, if I were to move to Germany, I would learn the language. It would, regardless of if people already could speak English and it wasn't necessary. If you're moving somewhere, then you should probably learn the language of the country you're moving to.
German is famous for ridiculously lengthy words. As Mark Twain said, some German words are so long that they have perspective. But before we judge them, there is a method to the madness. So check this out. If we wanted to say claustrophobia in English, it might be the idea of space plus fear. So we add space and fear and we get a different word, claustrophobia. In German, you can just add the two words together. Platzangst gives you Platzangst.
I wasn't under the assumption that this means like and or pasta. Obviously, if it's that long, it's going to have the equivalent of a few words in English. Clearly.
So see how it works now? Pretty logical, right? Now, okay, I know that I used a short example, but you see my point. Why borrow from Greek and Latin to describe something when you can just glue your own nouns together? It's quite cool, right? And that's all it is. Those super long words are simply compound words. Mind you, if you're having an allergic reaction and your mouth is swelling up, you might want to know the sign language for this particular word for food intolerance.
Nahrungsmittelunverträglichkeit. Nahrungsmittelunverträglichkeit.
Yeah, I'm not going to try saying that one. The reason for the long words is that German doesn't allow you to describe nouns with other nouns. So where in English you'll just write a bunch of nouns to describe the final noun, Germans leave out those unnecessary spaces and form one word out of it. If you have trouble understanding them, just try to think of them all as separate little words glued together. For example, in English we say birthday present. Two separate words. German combines them into one. Geburtstags and Geschenk. Geburtstagsgeschenk. But it is not all difficult compound words, though. There are lots
I like that one.
Geschenk.
Geburtstagsgeschenkt. 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 I did it.
Geburtstagsgeschenk. But it is not all difficult compound words, though. There are lots of easy words as well to get you started, like these ones you can see here on the screen, which really...
Hallo, danke. Lachen, schon, Kaffee, Wein, Liebe.
Really are nice.
I thought Liebe was land. Lebe?
And easy. There's one lovely word that German voted as their most beautiful word of all, Geborgenheit. There isn't an exact English translation, but it describes an intensely comforting feeling, like a moment.
Geborgenheit. Nice.
Unadulterated peace and happiness. And if you want to feel unadulterated happiness, then you should like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because I have a lot of comforting language videos still coming as well. Now, speaking of comfort, it's kind of a weird word to be using in a German video. I want to reassure you about something else. You can stop worrying about all those strange letters that German have.
Oh, this one's S. Scheiß. That's... I was going to say, isn't that swear or something? Grasse. That's a S, right?
Because there's only 4 of them. Here they are. So it's not that alarming, really. This one here is just like a double S, and you pronounce it like a S in song. And the dots on these 3 here just mean a slightly different pronunciation of those vowels. They're called umlauts, and umlauts mean it means like a round sound. in German. One of the Grimm brothers actually came up with this. Yeah, the same guy who wrote the fairy tales, you know? See, I told you German was interesting. The rest of the German alphabet is exactly like English, and pronunciation is pretty rigid for the most part. Once you know all the different sounds, it will be the same no matter what word you are saying.
Now that I think about it, Little Red Riding Hood is such a messed up story. How is that a children's story? I'm walking as a little girl to my grandma's house, and the wolf like wears it. The wolf ate grandma, and what is going on? Oh, it's such a great story. No, it's you Germans in your. I mean, what I thought were American just fairy tale stories. Turns out they were German, and they were from Brothers Grimm. Insane.
Most people find intimidating, though, is the grammar. And German has 3 genders, masculine, feminine, and neuter. And the case forms for each of them are also different. Have a look.
Masculine and feminine words. I mean, it's so much more confusing sometimes. This brings me back to Spanish class. Ugh. Nominative, accusative, dative, genitive. Der, die, das, die, den, die, das, die, dem, der, dem, den, dester, dester.
And that is just for the definite articles, because, yeah, unfortunately, there are more. And this will probably be one of your biggest challenges in German. And in the description below, I put a link to one of my most popular articles on decoding and understanding the German cases that you might like to check out. But you can gradually build up your understanding of these tricky grammar areas through practice and exposure. And look, immersion is always the key to this. I can't emphasize enough how important immersion and context is. I don't believe on focusing too much on grammar rules, because you just end up tying yourself in these knots. And if you struggled with German grammar in the past, then I've got something cool for you in just a minute, so stay around. Now, if you still need convincing that German is amazing, then let me remind you of what German minds have come up with in the past.
Einstein. Hello?
Sigmund Freud transformed the study of psychology. Albert Einstein revolutionized our understanding of science. And then there is this.
Wagner? No, it's Bach. It just said it, and I said the wrong thing.
Amazing. And to think that Bach is just one of many master composers who were German. The German language even gave us our first printed book. It was the Gutenberg press that was invented in Germany, initially to print the Bible. Martin Luther is the guy who made that happen. At the time, there was only a written standard for German, because since everyone wanted a copy of the printed Bible, people everywhere learned this form of German by reading it, and eventually it became the spoken standard too. Incidentally, the first magazine in the world was also printed in German, and today 10% of the world's books are published in German. So anyway, enough compelling reasons to learn German. I'm sure you will agree, but earlier I mentioned that I'm not a fan of learning a language by focusing on the grammar. And if you've tried to learn German in the past, then you may well be thinking, Ollie, what are you smoking? I need that grammar. But look, the best way to learn a rich language like German is with a method that uses stories, so that you can enjoy the language and learn the grammar naturally the way that native speakers do. And in this video, I show you exactly how to do this. It's a simple, kind of strange, but very effective way to learn German or any other language using stories. And in fact, it's called the story learning method. So click the video over here and take a look. If you want to learn German,
I think if you're going to learn it through stories or reading, getting down a few common words, and, this, but, from, him, her, that, there, where, just memorizing a few of those, I think will make it less confusing when you read other words that are more complicated that you don't know, but you know some of the words around it that are easier, and you can kind of guesstimate what it might mean, you know?
Or if you struggled with German grammar in the past, then learning the stories is going to be the most fun way of sorting that out.
Very interesting. Hope you guys are all doing well. I love that video. It's great. I always love learning about languages, a lot of different things. Really, if you guys are always awesome at answering any questions I had or any comments you have. Would love to see them. Hopefully you're all doing well, and I'll see you guys next video. Bye, guys.